actually hold it.
Because the book, which is what we ended up with, the catalogue rather, I think it was about 118 pages or 119 pages. And you're right, it was a template that we took from the Blurb website, because you're absolutely right. Blurb is essentially a print-on-demand facility which is aimed at a whole range of potential users, from artists to arts organisations and to people who are just interested in exploring their own creativity. So it was a very different way in which we went about producing the biannual catalogue, compared with previous editions where a sort of traditional print publisher would be the partner to the biannual. In the past, it's been PhotoWorks, and we've printed through a traditional media, going directly to the printers. But with this, you're absolutely right. We worked through the Blurb template, and just thinking about that. I mean, what from a design point of view, how else did that impact on you and your way of working as a designer? I mean, you mentioned that a whole step of the process, which is to try and finalise a format, basically was already was sidestepped essentially because of the way in which the facility is set up. I mean, how else did it did it have any other impact on the way you worked?
Not really. I think that the book as product was taken away, and that's slightly odd format. Just, well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's not such a big issue. It's just rounding off to the nearest mill. So, in as much as that we use the same software, that there's no different there. The fact that we communicated with PDFs. So the actual making of the book was probably no different. The kind of the pure design of it, if you like. Because if we were sending this catalogue to a traditional printer, I would still be providing high resolution PDFs, which is exactly what you need with Blurb. I mean, there's slight technical differences, just that not putting crop marks on things and having this kind of bleed that you can't actually see because there's no crop marks on the artwork. Just little things like that, so it gets sent back to me. But I don't think there's a huge difference. It's just that whole tactile nature of the book is dictated by Blurb.
Okay, by the options that are available.
Yeah, because they are quite limited.
Yeah, and I know that we did seek advice directly from the UK office, which covers the whole European context. We spoke to Teresa Pereira about who's the senior director there, about what advice she could give us to ensure that we had the best quality look and feel to the catalogue. And so we had this kind of, I suppose, I don't know how you describe it. It's a certain kind of a matte satin finish to the paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sort of matte satin, isn't it?
It's really, yeah. I think they had a matte paper or a silk.
That's it. So we've got this kind of.
I'm seeing that they would. Most printers quite often would choose to print on a silk because it will hold ink a lot easier than on an uncoated or a matte coated paper. So that whole issue of the sheet absorbing ink isn't a problem. It's easier for a printer to print and get a good result.
So it really is appropriate for photographic images where the final quality of the image needs to be really pristine.
I think it would depend on the type of work, really.
Okay.
Because some images, you want a soft paper, just like not everything that was on the water binder would be printed on glossy paper. I think to the extent side that traditionally you decide that quite early on by looking at the work and deciding whether it really does need a squeaky paper.
I'm just thinking also, do you think that some photographers produce work that lends itself especially well to the book format? Just thinking about what you're saying about that idea of pace and rhythm and the feel that comes over with certain perhaps photographic images in particular. Do you think there are some photographers whose work works really well in book formats?
Yeah, most photographers probably do work that lends itself to, I think books are probably the ideal form for photography, or for showing photography. I mean, they're kind of, made for each other in a way, in as much as that print. Okay, the printing process is different to what would have been traditionally made with negs and having to make prints and scans. So, but it's very different from, say, painting or drawing. It's just seems to me to be a perfect marriage. And most photographers, in my experience, work producing a series rather than just one-off images. So that whole idea of bringing a whole series together is perfect for a book. I think probably some photographers, Vinko being one of them, it seems to me that she's thinking about a book while she's taking the photographs, rather than, say, working on a series of photographs and then thinking about how best to make a book with them. I'm not necessarily saying one's going to make a better book than the other, but to me, Vinko's work works so much better in a book than it would do one or two images on a wall. So much better. And having a whole group of them together, because you can see that idea of almost making a flip book. There is a movement there, there's a rhythm there, there's a common thread.
It's interesting.